There is one sentence that almost nobody wants to speak. And because almost nobody wants to speak it, almost nobody discovers the extraordinary freedom hidden within it. For from the day you were born, you were quietly taught that certainty is strength, that having answers is intelligence, that confidence means never hesitating, never questioning, never admitting confusion. And slowly, without even realizing it, you begin constructing an identity made not from truth, but from conclusions, electing beliefs the way others collect possessions, carrying opinions as though they were treasures, defending ideas you had never truly examined simply because they had become familiar. And then one day, life placed before you a mystery too vast for borrowed answers, too alive for old philosophies, too immediate for second-hand knowledge. Yet instead of standing silently before the unknown, you reached again into the crowded storage room of memory, searching desperately for another explanation, another label, another comfortable conclusion. Because the human mind fears one thing more deeply than almost anything else, and that is the simple, honest confession, I do not know. Yet, hidden inside those four quiet words is a doorway so profound that every awakened being has eventually walked through it. Because the moment you sincerely admit that you do not know, you stop pretending. And the moment pretending ends, learning finally begins. Beloved ones, look carefully at the world around you and notice how much suffering is created not by ignorance itself, but by the refusal to acknowledge ignorance. People argue endlessly about subjects they have never truly explored. They defend beliefs inherited from parents, teachers, cultures and traditions, without ever asking whether those beliefs were discovered through direct experience or merely accepted through repetition. Entire identities become attached to opinions, and then every disagreement feels like a personal attack. Because once the ego builds its house upon certainty, questioning the belief feels like questioning the person. This is why conversations so rarely become explorations. They become competitions. Nobody wishes to understand. Everyone wishes to win. Yet, truth has never belonged to the one who wins arguments. Truth quietly reveals itself to the one who remains available. Availability begins with humility, and humility begins with the courage to say, perhaps I do not know as much as I imagine. The child possesses a remarkable quality that most adults slowly lose. Not because the child knows more, but because the child is not ashamed of not knowing. A child asks questions without protecting an image of intelligence. A child explores without fearing mistakes. A child can stare at a flower, a cloud, a bird, are a falling leaf with complete wonder, because the mind has not yet rushed to imprison everything inside definitions. The moment the adult sees the same flower, the mind immediately whispers its name, its category, perhaps even its scientific classification, and then believes the mystery has been solved. But naming is not knowing. Labeling is not understanding. You may know the word for the flower while remaining completely blind to its beauty. You may know the language of love while never having loved deeply. You may memorize thousands of spiritual teachings while never once tasting silence directly. The mind continually mistakes information for wisdom, yet information belongs to memory, while wisdom belongs to awareness. Information accumulates, wisdom awakens. Beloved ones, the greatest obstacle to wisdom is not the absence of knowledge, but the illusion of knowledge. The empty cup can receive fresh water. The cup, already convinced it is full, refuses every offering. This is why the truly wise often appear so simple. They are not burdened by the endless need to appear certain. They have discovered that existence is infinitely larger than the mind's conclusions. Every answer opens another question. Every mystery reveals another mystery, waiting quietly behind it. The more deeply you enter reality, the more astonishing it becomes. The ego interprets this as weakness because it desperately wants solid ground beneath every step. Awareness discovers something completely different. It discovers that life itself is movement. The river never apologizes for flowing. The sky never apologizes for changing. Why then should consciousness cling to rigid certainty when existence itself remains beautifully unfinished? Perhaps you have noticed, beloved ones, how exhausting it becomes to constantly defend an image of someone who always knows. You begin speaking before listening. You begin answering before understanding. You fear asking questions because questions might expose uncertainty. Gradually, curiosity disappears, replaced by performance. Instead of discovering life, you begin performing intelligence. Instead of exploring truth, you begin protecting conclusions. This performance drains enormous energy, because every conversation becomes another opportunity to defend the personality you have constructed. The awakened person carries no such burden. They can freely say, I do not know, because they understand that not knowing is not emptiness, it is openness. It is the fertile ground from which genuine understanding eventually grows. A closed mind cannot be taught because it has already decided. An open mind becomes a living invitation for existence itself to reveal what no book, no teacher, and no borrowed philosophy could ever fully express. Beloved ones, there is a silence that appears only after the mind finally stops pretending. It is unlike ordinary silence because it is not created through effort. It arrives naturally the moment unnecessary certainty begins dissolving. In that silence, you stop searching for quick answers and begin observing directly. You listen more carefully, you see more clearly. You become less interested in appearing wise and more interested in becoming awake. This transformation changes everything because awareness does not rush toward conclusions. It patiently watches reality unfold. It allows truth to reveal itself in its own time instead of forcing life to fit into yesterday's ideas. The mind calls this uncertainty. Wisdom calls it freedom. The mind fears standing before the unknown. Awareness bows before it with gratitude. Because the unknown is not the enemy of understanding. It is the birthplace of every genuine discovery, every authentic insight, and every profound awakening that has ever transformed a human life. Beloved ones, if you watch the movement of the mind with great patience, you will discover something both fascinating and deeply liberating. And it is this: the mind does not actually love truth as much as it loves certainty. These two things appear similar from a distance, yet they are entirely different. Truth is alive, certainty is fixed. Truth continues unfolding because existence itself continues unfolding. Certainty stops growing because it has already declared the journey complete. This is why so many people become intellectually rich yet spiritually poor. They collect explanations until they can explain almost everything, but somewhere along the way they lose the capacity to wonder. Their eyes no longer become silent before the stars. They no longer stand in awe before a sunrise. They no longer listen deeply because they already believe they know what the other person is about to say. The mind continually rushes ahead of reality, replacing direct experience with old conclusions, and in doing so, it unknowingly steals the freshness from every moment. The awakened person lives differently. Every sunrise is the first sunrise. Every conversation is the first conversation. Every breath arrives carrying something that has never existed before. Such a person remains forever young because youth has never belonged to the body. It belongs to the willingness to meet life without the heavy burden of predetermined answers. From childhood, beloved ones, you were rewarded whenever you appeared to know. In a school, the correct answer received praise, while honest uncertainty was often treated as failure. Slowly, a dangerous association formed within the unconscious mind. Not knowing began to feel embarrassing. Ignorance became something to hide rather than something to understand. Yet the entire movement of authentic learning begins precisely where false certainty ends. Every scientist who made a genuine discovery first stood before an unanswered question. Every artist who created something original first entered unknown territory. Every mystic who awakened first admitted that borrowed beliefs could no longer satisfy the hunger of the heart. The doorway was always the same. It began with the courage to abandon second-hand certainty and step into living mystery. The tragedy is that society celebrates conclusions far more than it celebrates inquiry. Yet existence has never stopped revealing itself to those who continue asking with innocent sincerity. Beloved ones, there is another hidden gift inside the words I do not know. And that gift is listening. Observe ordinary conversations and notice how rarely people truly hear one another. While another person is speaking, the mind is already preparing its reply, defending its position, comparing experiences, or searching memory for something clever to say. Very little listening actually takes place. Most conversations are simply two minds waiting for opportunities to continue speaking. But when you genuinely admit that you do not know, something extraordinary becomes possible. For the first time, you become available. You no longer need to protect an opinion. You no longer need to prove intelligence. You simply listen. Real listening is one of the rarest forms of love because it asks nothing except presence. It does not interrupt. It does not manipulate. It does not secretly translate every word into agreement or disagreement. It allows another human being to exist exactly as they are for a few precious moments. Such listening transforms not only relationships but consciousness itself, because the one who learns to listen deeply to others eventually learns to listen deeply to life. Perhaps this is why the wisest people often answer questions with silence before speaking at all. The ordinary mind interprets silence as hesitation because it assumes quick answers indicate understanding. But wisdom has never been in a hurry. Wisdom allows reality to settle before responding. It refuses to throw words into the air merely to protect an image of certainty. There are moments when the most truthful answer is not a complicated explanation, but an honest acknowledgement that the mystery is still unfolding. Existence is not a mathematical equation waiting to be solved once and for all. It is an infinite dance. The moment you believe you have completely understood it, you have already reduced it into something smaller than it truly is. The awakened person therefore remains humble, not as a moral discipline, but as a natural consequence of seeing how vast reality actually is. Standing before infinity, how could arrogance survive? Standing before the endless intelligence of existence, how could the mind honestly claim complete understanding? Beloved ones, notice how much energy is wasted pretending. You pretend to understand conversations that leave you confused. You pretend to possess confidence while anxiety quietly grows beneath the surface. You pretend to know where your life is going, even when your heart feels uncertain. Every act of pretending creates another division within consciousness. One part of you knows the truth, while another part performs for the world. Living in such division becomes exhausting because it requires constant maintenance. Authenticity, however, is astonishingly restful. The moment you say, "I do not know," when you truly do not know, the division disappears. Your outer expression and your inner reality become one movement. This integrity creates tremendous peace because there is no longer anything to defend. The personality relaxes, the heart becomes lighter. Even the body begins releasing tension that had accumulated through years of psychological performance. It is not ignorance that burdens human beings. It is the endless effort required to hide it. Beloved ones, never be afraid of beginning again. The ego fears beginning because beginning means admitting incompleteness. Awareness celebrates beginning because every beginning contains limitless possibility. The seed does not apologize for not yet being a tree. The morning does not apologize for not yet becoming evening. Every stage of existence is complete within itself, precisely because it does not pretend to be somewhere else. Learn from this extraordinary intelligence of nature. Allow yourself to remain a student before life, regardless of how much you have learned. Let every experience become another invitation to discover, rather than another opportunity to confirm old beliefs. The day you become completely certain about yourself, about others, about truth, and about existence itself, your inner growth quietly stops. But the day you once again become capable of saying with sincerity, "I do not know, therefore I am ready to see," a new life begins opening before you, filled not with borrowed conclusions, but with living wisdom that no book can contain, no teacher can fully transmit, and no philosophy can permanently capture, because it is discovered directly within the silent awareness of your own experience, moment after moment, breath after breath. Beloved ones, one of the most beautiful transformations begins the moment you stop fearing the unknown and begin trusting it. Because until that moment, every unanswered question appears as a threat. Every uncertainty feels like instability, and every mystery becomes something the mind desperately tries to conquer. Yet, existence has never asked you to conquer mystery. It has only invited you to participate in it. Look at the night sky without immediately searching for explanations. And you will discover that wonder itself is a form of wisdom. Listen to the sound of rain without rushing to describe it, and something within you becomes deeply quiet. Watch a flower opening in the early morning light without trying to reduce it to knowledge, and suddenly you begin seeing that life has always been communicating in a language older than words. The mind constantly interrupts this communication because it believes understanding comes through naming. Awareness discovers that understanding often begins only after naming has stopped. There are truths that can never be imprisoned inside language. They must be lived, breathed, and silently experienced. This is why the deepest moments of your life have probably left you speechless. Love, beauty, birth, death, silence, and profound peace all share one remarkable quality. They become smaller the moment you attempt to contain them completely within explanation. Observe how the ego reacts whenever someone asks a difficult question. Beloved ones, immediately it begins searching memory, collecting old ideas, arranging borrowed knowledge into convincing patterns, hoping to protect the image of someone who always possesses an answer. The answer itself becomes less important than maintaining the appearance of certainty. This is why so much of human communication has become mechanical. People repeat what they have heard rather than discovering what they know. They quote wisdom without embodying it. They defend beliefs without investigating them. They become libraries filled with information, yet strangely disconnected from direct experience. The awakened person has no interest in becoming a library. He wishes to become a mirror. A library stores words. A mirror reflects reality exactly as it is. Every moment becomes new because every moment is seen without the dust of yesterday's conclusions covering its surface. Such freshness cannot be learned through memory alone. It is born from the courage to meet each experience without immediately forcing it into familiar categories. Beloved ones, the fear of saying I do not know is deeply connected with the fear of being ordinary. The ego longs to appear exceptional because it secretly believes ordinary existence is not enough. It wants to become special through knowledge, achievements, opinions, or recognition. Yet look carefully at nature. The river does not try to become extraordinary. The moon does not compete with the stars. The tree does not compare its branches with the flowers growing beneath it. Everything simply fulfills its own nature without anxiety. And because of this, everything possesses extraordinary beauty. Human beings alone have created the exhausting habit of trying to become more than they already are before allowing themselves to experience peace. The awakened person abandons this struggle. He discovers that extraordinary awareness is born from complete ordinariness. Drinking tea becomes meditation. Walking becomes meditation. Sitting quietly becomes meditation. Even admitting uncertainty becomes meditation. Because the ego is no longer directing the experience. Presence has quietly taken its place. There is immense intelligence hidden inside humility, beloved ones. But humility has been misunderstood for centuries. People imagine humility means thinking poorly of yourself, lowering yourself before others, denying your gifts, or pretending to be less capable than you truly are. None of this is humility. It is simply another disguise worn by the ego. True humility means recognizing the infinite vastness of existence while simultaneously recognizing your own participation within it. It means understanding that however much you know today, tomorrow may reveal an entirely new horizon. It means remaining available to correction without feeling diminished. It means allowing life to continually surprise you. Because you no longer believe your current understanding is final. Such humility creates immense freedom. You stop fearing mistakes because mistakes become teachers rather than enemies. You stop fearing questions because questions become doorways rather than threats. You stop fearing change because change becomes the natural movement of living intelligence instead of an attack upon your identity. And gradually, beloved ones, a remarkable peace begins entering your life. The endless pressure to appear wise quietly disappears. You no longer carry conversations like examinations that must be passed. You no longer measure your worth by how impressive your opinions sound. Instead, you begin valuing sincerity more than certainty, curiosity more than conclusion, awareness more than information. This shift seems small, yet it transforms the entire quality of your existence. Your relationships become more authentic because people no longer encounter a carefully protected image. They encounter a living human being. Your learning becomes deeper because every experience is approached with openness instead of assumption. Even your meditation changes because you stop chasing extraordinary experiences and begin observing ordinary consciousness with extraordinary attention. Then the words "I do not know" cease to be an admission of weakness. They become the beginning of every genuine discovery. They become the key that unlocks the prison of borrowed knowledge. They become the quiet prayer of a heart that has finally become humble enough to receive what existence has been trying to reveal all along. In that humble openness, beloved ones, wisdom no longer feels like something you possess. It becomes something that gently moves through you, just as the wind moves through an open forest, asking only that nothing inside you remains so certain of itself that it refuses the living mystery standing patiently before it. Beloved ones, there is a remarkable difference between a person who has accumulated knowledge and a person who has awakened into wisdom. Although from the outside they may appear almost identical, the knowledgeable person speaks from memory. The wise person speaks from presence. The knowledgeable person is always searching for the correct quotation, the correct philosophy, the correct conclusion, while the wise person is not imprisoned by conclusions, because they are continually learning from the living moment itself. Life has become their scripture. Silence has become their teacher. Awareness has become their method. This is why wisdom always feels fresh. It is not repeating something discovered long ago. It is discovering reality again and again every single day. The river flowing before you today is not the same river that flowed yesterday. The sky above your head has never existed in exactly this way before. Even the breath entering your body at this very moment is completely new. Why then should your understanding remain frozen, while existence itself continues unfolding with infinite creativity? The moment understanding becomes rigid, it quietly stops being wisdom and becomes ideology. Notice, beloved ones, how quickly the mind transforms every discovery into another possession. You may experience a beautiful moment of insight during meditation, and immediately the mind says, "Now I know." That simple statement closes the door which the insight had just opened. The experience was alive only while it remained fresh. The moment you imprison it inside a conclusion, it becomes another memory, another idea to defend, another identity to carry. The ego is extraordinarily clever. Even spirituality becomes another decoration for its image. It begins saying, "I understand meditation. I understand consciousness. I understand truth." Yet the one who truly understands speaks less and observes more, because they have seen that every genuine realization opens into an even greater mystery. Every mountain climbed reveals another mountain beyond it. Every answer sincerely lived gives birth to deeper questions. Instead of becoming frustrated by this endless unfolding, the awakened person rejoices in it, because they no longer seek final certainty. They have discovered that life remains beautiful precisely because it cannot be exhausted by explanation. Beloved ones, there is a silent arrogance hidden within the desire to know everything. This arrogance is rarely visible because it often disguises itself as intelligence, ambition, or even spiritual seeking. But beneath all these disguises lies a subtle refusal to surrender before the mystery of existence. The mind believes that if it can explain everything, it will finally feel secure. But have you ever noticed that the more answers you collect, the more new questions appear? The search for absolute certainty becomes endless, because certainty itself was never the destination. Awareness was. The mind mistakes control for peace. Awareness discovers that peace appears only when the need for control gently dissolves. Imagine trying to hold the entire sky inside your hands. No matter how tightly you close your fingers, the sky remains untouched. In the same way, existence refuses to fit inside the limited container of thought. The more forcefully you attempt to capture it, the more distant it seems. But the moment you simply look upward without trying to possess it, its vastness quietly enters your heart. There is also great compassion born from admitting that you do not know, beloved ones. The person who believes they already possess the truth has very little patience for those who think differently. They immediately judge, correct, argue, and divide. But the person who has become intimate with the mystery realizes that everyone is walking according to the limits of their present understanding. Compassion naturally replaces judgment, because you no longer expect another person to see what they have not yet experienced. Just as you cannot force a flower to bloom before its season has arrived, you cannot force consciousness to awaken according to your own timetable. This understanding softens the heart. It allows you to guide without arrogance, to teach without superiority, and to disagree without hatred. Such compassion is impossible for the ego, because the ego requires enemies in order to strengthen its identity. Awareness requires no enemies. It simply sees different stages of the same endless journey toward understanding. Beloved ones, perhaps the greatest freedom hidden inside the words "I do not know" is that they return you to direct experience. Instead of living through ideas about life, you begin living life itself. Instead of believing someone else's description of peace, you begin tasting peace directly. Instead of accepting borrowed definitions of love, you begin discovering what love actually feels like within your own heart. Instead of endlessly debating truth, you quietly become available to it. This movement from second-hand knowledge to first-hand experience changes the entire quality of existence, because reality can only be known directly. No description of sweetness can replace the taste of honey. No explanation of music can replace hearing the melody. No philosophy about meditation can replace one silent moment in which the mind naturally comes to rest. The awakened person, therefore, values experience above conclusion, awareness above belief, and presence above memory. Every day becomes another opportunity to meet existence without the heavy dust of yesterday covering the eyes. And slowly, beloved ones, something extraordinary begins flowering within you. You become comfortable standing before unanswered questions without feeling incomplete. You become capable of loving mystery instead of fearing it. You stop demanding immediate explanations for every difficulty because trust has become deeper than the mind's impatience. You discover that wisdom has never been the accumulation of countless answers. Wisdom is the quiet courage to remain open when no answer immediately appears. It is the willingness to continue walking without pretending to see the entire path. It is the humility to admit that existence will always remain infinitely larger than your understanding, while still celebrating the small glimpses of truth that awareness reveals along the way. Then life itself becomes your teacher. Every sunrise becomes a lesson. Every mistake becomes a lesson. Every silence becomes a lesson. Every person becomes a mirror. Every breath becomes a reminder that the greatest wisdom was never hidden inside certainty. It has always been hidden inside the beautiful innocence of a consciousness courageous enough to whisper with complete honesty and complete peace, I do not know. And because it no longer knows, it is finally ready to see. Beloved ones, the day you become comfortable with not knowing is the day fear begins losing its deepest foundation. Because fear survives by convincing you that uncertainty is dangerous, that every unanswered question must immediately be resolved, that every unknown path must first become completely visible before you dare to take a single step. Yet, if existence had waited for certainty before creating anything, there would be no forests, no oceans, no stars, and no human life. Every seed enters the darkness of the earth without guarantees. Every bird leaves the branch before knowing exactly how the wind will carry it. Every sunrise appears without asking whether the world is ready to receive it. Existence moves with trust, not with certainty. Only the human mind has become obsessed with demanding complete assurance before allowing itself to live. This obsession quietly steals the adventure from existence, because life is not a problem waiting for a perfect solution. It is an endless invitation to participate in mystery with awareness. Look deeply into your own experience, beloved ones, and remember the moments that transformed your life most completely. Did they arrive because you had every answer beforehand? Or did they arrive because you were willing to step into something unknown? Love enters unexpectedly. Friendship appears unexpectedly. Creativity emerges unexpectedly. The greatest insights often arrive precisely when the mind has exhausted its endless search for explanations and finally becomes quiet enough to receive something greater than thought itself. This is why silence has always been honored by the truly wise. Silence is not the absence of intelligence. It is intelligence before it has been divided into words. The mind immediately translates experience into language because language creates the comforting illusion of understanding. Awareness remains with the experience itself. It allows reality to reveal layer after layer without rushing to imprison it inside conclusions. Such patience is rare because the ego feels uncomfortable whenever it cannot immediately define what is happening. Yet truth unfolds only for the patient heart. Beloved ones, another miracle begins happening when you sincerely embrace the unknown. You become teachable again. The greatest obstacle to learning has never been lack of ability. It has always been the belief that there is nothing left to learn. The moment you imagine yourself complete, growth quietly stops. Water cannot enter a vessel already convinced it is full. But when you become empty once again, life begins pouring into you from every direction. A child becomes your teacher. A tree becomes your teacher. A stranger passing by becomes your teacher. Even suffering becomes your teacher because you are no longer resisting the lessons hidden within experience. The awakened person walks through the world surrounded by teachers because they have abandoned the arrogance of certainty. Wherever they look, there is something new to discover. Every ordinary moment contains extraordinary depth because the eyes observing it have recovered their innocence. Notice how innocence differs from ignorance, beloved ones. Ignorance does not know and does not care to know. Innocence does not know and delights in discovering. Ignorance closes the door. Innocence opens every window. The innocent mind is not empty because it lacks intelligence. It is empty because it has refused to become overcrowded with unnecessary conclusions. Such emptiness is creative. It is alive. It is the same emptiness that allows music to adjust between notes and allows the stars to shine through the vastness of the night sky. Without emptiness, nothing new could ever enter. Without silence, no song could ever be heard. Without not knowing, wisdom itself would have nowhere to arrive. This is why the awakened person protects their innocence more carefully than they protect their opinions. Opinions can always change. Innocence is the very soil from which all authentic understanding continues growing. Beloved ones, perhaps the greatest illusion created by the mind is the belief that certainty produces security. Look honestly at human history, and you will discover that the greatest conflicts have rarely been caused by people admitting they did not know. They have almost always been caused by people becoming absolutely convinced that only they knew the truth. Wars have been fought over certainty. Families have been divided over certainty. Friendships have ended over certainty. Religions have argued over certainty. Yet the humble admission of not knowing creates dialogue instead of conflict, curiosity instead of judgment, compassion instead of superiority. The moment you no longer need your beliefs to protect your identity, you become capable of hearing another human being without immediately preparing a defense. Such listening is revolutionary because it allows truth to emerge naturally rather than forcing one opinion to defeat another. The ego seeks victory. Awareness seeks understanding. And so, beloved ones, let your life become less like a courtroom where every experience must be judged immediately, and more like an open sky where every cloud is allowed to pass without being imprisoned. Let every question deepen your awareness rather than threaten your confidence. Let every mystery remind you that existence is infinitely more generous than the small collection of answers carried by the mind. Walk gently through this world with the quiet courage to say, I do not know. Not as someone who has given up searching, but as someone who has finally begun searching in the right way. For the greatest discoveries are never made by those who believe they already possess the truth. They are made by those whose hearts remain open enough to be surprised. In that openness, wisdom is no longer something you acquire. It becomes the natural fragrance of a consciousness that has stopped pretending, stopped clinging, stopped defending, and has finally become spacious enough for existence itself to whisper its endless secrets into the silence of your own awakened being. Beloved ones, if you carry only one insight from these reflections, let it be this: wisdom does not begin when you finally possess all the answers. Wisdom begins when you are no longer frightened by the absence of them. For most of your life, you have been taught to believe that certainty is the destination, that one day you will finally understand everything important, that all confusion will disappear, every mystery will be solved, and every question will receive its permanent answer. Yet, if you look honestly at existence, you will discover that life has never worked in this way. The deeper you enter reality, the more beautiful its mystery becomes. Every answer opens another horizon. Every discovery reveals another depth, waiting patiently beyond it. This is not existence withholding truth from you. This is existence inviting you into an endless relationship with truth, rather than a final possession of it. Truth is alive, and only a living consciousness can continue walking beside it. The moment you try to own it completely, it quietly slips beyond the reach of thought once again, reminding you that infinity cannot be captured by a finite mind. Perhaps this is why the truly awakened never appear burdened by the need to convince anyone. They do not argue because they have nothing to defend. They do not insist because they are not protecting conclusions. They do not become anxious when another person disagrees, because disagreement cannot threaten direct experience. If you have truly seen the sunrise, you do not need the whole world to agree that morning has arrived. If you have truly tasted silence, you do not require endless debates about meditation. Direct experience carries its own quiet certainty. But this certainty is entirely different from the certainty of the ego. The ego says, I know, therefore I am greater. Awareness says, I have experienced something beautiful, and I remain open to discovering infinitely more. One closes the door, the other leaves every window open. One hardens into belief, the other continues flowering into understanding. This is the humility that gives wisdom its extraordinary fragrance. It never claims completion because it has fallen in love with the endlessness of existence itself. Beloved ones, there will be moments in your life when confusion returns. There will be seasons when old answers no longer satisfy and new understanding has not yet arrived. Do not be afraid of these moments. They are sacred. The mind interprets them as failure because it desperately wants immediate certainty. But awareness recognizes them as periods of transformation. Before every dawn, there is darkness. Before every flowering, there is hidden growth beneath the soil. Before every genuine insight, there is often a long season in which borrowed knowledge quietly falls apart. Allow it to fall apart. Do not rush to replace one belief with another, merely to escape discomfort. Remain with the emptiness for a little while. Sit with the unanswered question. Walk gently beside your uncertainty. You may discover that what felt like emptiness was actually space, and only in spaciousness can something truly new be born. The old must sometimes dissolve before the real can reveal itself. As this understanding deepens, beloved ones, your entire way of living begins changing without effort. You become slower to judge because you recognize how little can truly be known from appearances alone. You become quicker to listen because every person may reveal a truth your present understanding has not yet touched. You become more compassionate toward yourself because mistakes are no longer evidence of failure, but invitations to greater awareness. Even your relationship with the future changes. Instead of demanding guarantees before taking each step, you begin trusting life itself. Not blindly, not carelessly, but with the quiet confidence that awareness will meet whatever tomorrow brings, just as it has met every yesterday that once seemed impossible. This trust is infinitely deeper than certainty, because certainty depends upon prediction, while trust depends upon presence. Prediction belongs to the mind, presence belongs to consciousness. And so, beloved ones, if tomorrow someone asks you a question whose answer you genuinely do not know, do not rush to fill the silence with borrowed words. Let the silence remain for a moment. Let honesty breathe. Allow yourself the immense dignity of saying, I do not know. Speak those words not with embarrassment, but with gratitude, because they are the beginning of every authentic journey. They cleanse the mind of arrogance, they soften the heart, they reopen the eyes, they restore the wonder that was slowly buried beneath years of accumulated conclusions. From that simple admission, real learning becomes possible, real meditation becomes possible, real love becomes possible, and real freedom quietly begins entering your life. For in the end, beloved ones, the greatest wisdom is not found in becoming someone who possesses countless answers. It is found in becoming someone whose heart remains so open, so silent, and so deeply alive that existence itself can continue teaching them until the very last breath. Then every sunrise becomes a scripture. Every conversation becomes a meditation. Every challenge becomes a doorway. Every mystery becomes a blessing. And every moment becomes an opportunity to awaken again. You no longer live inside the narrow prison of what you think you know. You begin living inside the infinite openness of what is endlessly waiting to be discovered. In that openness, there is no fear, because there is no image left to defend. There is no struggle, because there is no certainty demanding protection. there is only awareness, quietly witnessing the miracle of existence exactly as it is, and discovering that the simple, honest, and courageous words, "I do not know," were never the end of wisdom at all. They were its very first breath.